Let's get salty!
Everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video. We're just a couple days removed from the very meaningful nerfs that we saw to Death Knight, Demon Hunter, and Paladin. And as always, after a balance patch, I want to recommend to you the best decks you can take and expect to climb, whether it means to get to silver, gold, platinum, legend, whatever it is for the very first time. These are all decks taken from standard and wild. And although the nerfs have been pretty minor, I did want to do this update video as the meta, it's evolving. The expansion came out less than a week ago, so I thought I would advise you guys on some refined lists as well as some other stuff that has popped up. So again, still early on, craft at your own risk, and I would expect a large balance patch in the next couple of weeks. If you take a look at the win rates here, got classes like Mage, Warrior that are doing absolutely terrible, especially also in Wild with the whole twig situation. A lot of these decks could get changed, so be aware of that. But of course, I'll keep you posted on all that. And how do you follow that? Well, if you feel like I've earned your subscription and you enjoy the content on the channel, that sub button down below, help us out to get to 69,420 subs. It'd be awfully nice. Plus, we're gonna have a big giveaway. And also, before I get into the decks, just a reminder, right now on twitch.tv/SolariHS, there's like a tournament going on. There are drops for 2 standard packs. I mentioned it in yesterday's video, and a quick reminder in case you didn't see that, to head on over there and get your 2 free standard packs. Anyways, what's the best decks after the nerfs to Death Knight, Demon Hunter, and Paladin? Well, I've got some Death Knight, Demon Hunter, and Paladin decks lined up with Frost Death Knight, the same deck as before with Construct Quarter, because the 3 durability for Frost Death Knight, not as big a deal as the games typically don't go super long with the deck. It's all about burning your opponent out. Take a look at HS Replay at the top legend. It's still arguably the best deck in the game. It runs still only 1 new card in Hardcore Cultist from the latest set. It's just a really well-refined, good deck that can freeze the entire board with the Frostworm's Fury, freeze minions with the Might of Menethil, and of course you have your burn in here, like your Marrow Manipulators of the world, and of course the Discover options, which are always good from Froststrike, and Nerubian Vizier can just hard carry games. The location nerf has, lowered the win rate somewhat, but not a ton. Speaking of not lowering the win rate is Blood Death Knight. Again, this is a Renathal deck that they have cut the location. It was never that great a card in the deck, so it's not run, and instead they put in amalgams to discover more things. Isn't that fun? Death Knight discovering more, I don't know, no munchers, more Mograines, more Patchworks, more Soul Stealers. The options are really good off of Amalgam of the Deep quite often, and everything else basically remains the same. The new cards in here are Arcanite Ripper, as well as Ghost Rider for, of course, more Discover, and Screaming Banshee, one of the more sleeper cards in the set, at least for me. I underrated it, where just with a Vampiric Blood, it can give you 2 5/5s, which is pretty darn good. And yes, it's cool to see a control deck kicking butt. It's just kind of sad that it's, too good that it's like everybody plays and people are getting sick of it. So I really hope it doesn't get warriored, because this just feels like it got what Warrior used to have. So look out for that. But overall, I love the deck. I love playing it. It's just nice to have a good old-fashioned control deck be viable for once, and arguably the best deck in the game. Next, instead of Outcast Demon Hunter, I've got to recommend Relic Demon Hunter. The deck that didn't get nerfed is very solid. Utilizes, surprisingly, the new card Photographer Fizzle, as it can copy your hand, right? However, the big part about it, the snapshot copies the mana cheat, the discount. So if you like Fizzle and you copy a bunch of cheap cards from your Relic Dimension that's a drop back, you can do some crazy wombo combos. But yeah, basically it's got all the Relic stuff that you're used to. One of the new cards in here is Rowdy Fan. You just slap this on Astheno, all of a sudden Astheno has got 6 attack every single time it hits, which is just ridiculous. And discounted all of that, you could just do incredible damage. And yeah, the deck is doing really well. Also got the core set edition of Immolation Aura, has helped things a ton. And also just Feller in the Forgotten is now a good card in Demon Hunter, because there's like no bad hits in Outcast anymore. You just get good stuff. Mana cheat, card draw, removal, whatever. It's just a really solid card, and this seems to be the best performing Demon Hunter deck. And it does a lot of absurd mana cheat and OTKs from in hand. Not my cup of tea, but if you want to play it and get good with the deck, it is doing quite well. And yeah, Pure Paladin. Pure Paladin's still doing really well, especially if you're playing more at lower ranks. It does extremely well from like bronze all the way up to like diamond. It is like 60% or more win rate. It only starts falling off basically at legend and high legend, and it's still like good at those ranks. It's not even bad. It's just busted. Really punishes at lower ranks where people are playing less optimally. And yes, light rate still worth running, still comes down for dirt cheap. And you've got some new cards in here like Jitterbug, Funkin. Boogie Down is a card that really surprised me. Thinning out your deck with the 1-drops, giving them taunt, possibly if you really care about that. And of course, like my favorite diamond in the game, Blood Matriarch Liadrin. And Disco Mall is just an utterly broken card for when the real balance patch happens. Is quite likely a card I could see getting hit. And I will go with another more refined Tony Druid. I threw this one in last minute, this style of deck last minute, because I saw people doing well with it. And it's been noted this deck, if you're not running into a ton of aggro, this deck just farms people. You have the hero power package in here early, like Free Spirit, Peaceful Piper, your Groovy Cat, basically to give you some, you know, early game to fight things off, some survivability. But then, of course, it's all about getting to that end game combo where you play a new Brickon, Jailer, Tony King of Piracy, and, well, your opponent can't get their deck back. They're screwed. They can't kill your stuff, and then you murder them. There's also other shenanigans you could do, like silencing the Tony and then jailering, basically preventing your opponent from destroying the board, just deleting the deck right away. And there's also the Wombo combo in here that I did for achievement hunting that's pretty good. Mishmash Mosher, if you make it immune with Attorney at Maw, it's a board clear that leaves a giant threat. So that's actually pretty solid if you can get that to go. But overall, I know people really enjoy this style of archetype, and if you're not facing aggro, Tony Druid can lead to some pretty spectacular games. And I wanted to throw a bonus deck in there, a 6th deck, Burn Mage. I don't know if this is legitimate, but on Donkey's site, it's posting at like a 60% win rate over the last day or so. That could be, you know, the sample size relatively small, but it's similar to like the old Burn Mage from the prior set where, you know, you get your frozen touches, you recast it a bunch, burn people out with like, you know, the arcane bolts from Arc Splitter, Arcane Worm, Flame Geyser is a new burn addition. You could get more of it with Commander Sarbara, buff it up with Egwin, you have volume up for some insane card draw, and Pozic in there just to help you fight for board. This deck looks relatively cheaper too, so if you have the cards, maybe give it a go. Maybe it is that meta breaker, or maybe not, but the win rate, at least on a limited sample size, look pretty good. And, you know, Mage has got like nothing going on that's winning right now, so I thought I would throw in a Mage deck. And well, Wild didn't really get affected at all from the latest balance patch, so we'll go through this pretty quickly. But yes, OTK Druid, the exact same deck I showed before, where you play your instrument tech, play Twig Sphere, kill your opponent. It's really good. It's disgusting. They need to fix it. But yes, still play it, abuse it while you can, because it's absolutely nasty. Kingsbane, I'll show off a different list than before. Last time I did a Renethal version. This is more strictly just go crazy with the weapon, where you protect yourself with like Evasion, Cloak of Shadows. You've got your ETC manager here, which has Evasion, another copy, Zeph for the late game because you draw so much, or Smothering Starfish to like silence and get through taunts. You got Scabs in here. Don't tell Nova. She thinks it's safe that he's no longer in standard. And, you know, you just go crazy with it, buff it up, and do all the things that you could do with Kingsbane. The new cards that make this deck crazy are Harmonic Hip Hop, which is basically oil for half the cost. It's just insane. And Mic Drop, which also buffs it and draws cards. This feels like the other problem deck that nobody is talking about, where this is just going to murder you. And yes, Leeching Poison sees a comeback because your weapon gets so big so fast that basically a Leeching Poison, like a Doomerang, it's like a Reno easily. It's disgusting. So look out for this. You might have some fun smacking some faces. We got On Paladin. I got this recommended to me from Ben from work. He says this is the best counter to Druid, where you just flood the board with dudes really early on. You've got 1 mana Conviction, which got reverted. Oh my God, to try and stop them, and just smash them in the face with dudes, Warhorse Trainers, Quartermasters. It's the Druid counter. I don't know how well it's going to do against other decks, but if you're just facing Druid, this does look like it would smash pretty hard. Same with Aggro Priest. Again, this is just no new cards. It's only there just to hit Druids in the face. You know the deal. Shadow Priest, Hero Power, Void Touched Attendant. It does the trick. And lastly, Secret Mage, because it's Secret Mage. It's the same deck as always, so give that a go if you got the cards. And it can win games against anything. It can still beat up Druid. You can disrupt them, slow them down, especially with like Counterspell, Objection, things like that. So those are the decks for Standard and Wild. Hopefully we'll get a bigger balance patch, I would expect, in like a week or two, and then we'll have some real different decks hopefully to recommend, other than mostly decks from like the prior expansion. Anyways, we'll be talking a lot about that style of stuff in the upcoming days, so stay tuned for that. Enjoy the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day and stay salty, my friends.